I'm going to call the City Council Caucus meeting to order for July 13th, 2015. If the clerk would read item number 1.
Item number 1 under original consideration, an ordinance reappropriating the adopted 2015 budget.
This was discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 2.
Item number 2, an ordinance amending parking ticket payment recovery fees, introduced only with the resolution calling for a public hearing for the proposed ordinance on July 27, 2015.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 3.
Item number 3, an ordinance amending Chapter 36, Elections of the City Code, introduced only with the resolution calling for a public hearing for the above proposed ordinance on July 27, 2015.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 4.
Item number 4, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds for the Central Park Downtown Schenectady Trail.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 5.
Item number 5, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding of a transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds for the alternative fuel vehicles and charging station.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 6.
Item number 6, a resolution accepting a grant related to Orchard Park.
There's been some confusion about this. This is actually applying for a grant, but so Ms. Porterfield, I believe you were going to amend this.
We have a copy of the amended resolution, so we'd like to amend the resolution to add a paragraph that says, whereas the City Council supports the mayor in the application for this grant, and if the city is awarded the grant, seeks to authorize acceptance of the funds so work can be done as quickly as possible. Okay. I offer that amendment to the resolution.
Okay. Seconded by Mr. Mudavaren. All in favor? Aye. So that's amendment. I'll put this on the consent agenda. Okay? Without objection on consent. Thank you. Number 7.
Item number 7, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of 2040 Van Vranken Avenue from the Schenectady Urban Renewal Agency.
Discussed in committee without objection on consent. Item number 8.
Item number 8, a resolution authorizing the City of Schenectady to settle a tax certiorari with 1607 Union Street Association for property located at 1607 Union Street.
Discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 9.
Item number 9, a resolution authorizing the City of Schenectady to settle a tax certiorari case with Christopher and Raymond Madone for property located at 801 Bridge Street.
Also discussed in claims without objection on consent. Item number 10.
Item number 10, under contract and supply, a resolution accepting the bid and awarding the contract for the demolition and debris removal of select vacant buildings in the city.
Discussed in City Development and Planning Committee tonight as well as last week without objection on consent. Item number 11.
Item number 11, a resolution authorizing the sale of 962 Francis Avenue.
Discussed in committee this evening without objection on consent. Item number 12.
Item number 12, a resolution authorizing the sale of 1722 Broadway.
Again, discussed in committee this evening without objection on consent. Item number 13.
Item number 13, a resolution authorizing the sale of 718 Mason Street.
Discussed in committee this evening without objection on consent. And item number 14.
Item number 14, a resolution authorizing the sale of 208 Duane Avenue.
Also discussed in committee this evening without objection on consent. If there's nothing else to come before the City Council caucus, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Riggi, seconded by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, I will now call to order the City Council meeting for July 13th, 2015, and ask you to rise for the invocation by the Reverend Dave Cheatham, Shri Ganesh Mandir of Schenectady.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Beloved brothers and sisters, let us with our respect, faith, love, devotion, gratitude, pray as one family. Gracious Lord, we thank you for making us in your image and likeness. We thank you for supplying our needs and our wants daily. We thank you for your understanding and guidance. We thank you for your sweet and divine presence here today. Father, we don't know if you were to render all the trees a pen, all the oceans ink, and all the earth a sheet of paper, still then we'll fail to glorify you. That is your inconceivable power, your amazing grace, and your unconditional love. Indeed, you are the Lordship of all lords, you are the essence of all truths, and you are the blessings of the blessed. All glories unto you. Blessed Lord, please bless the mayor with the wisdom to continue to lead us in the most positive and progressive way. Bless all the councilors and the rest of his congregation with the character, vision, and the conviction to realize the goals and objectives of his undertaking this evening. Omnipresent divine consciousness, kindly enlighten us and help us to remove our shortcomings, our vices, and our misunderstandings. Please bless this county and remove all the grievances of each and every resident. May reverence, love, mercy, truth, peace, harmony, and joy pervade the world. God bless this assembly. God bless this county. God bless America. Thank you all very much.
All right, I'm going to ask Tony Bonhomme to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If the clerk would call the roll.
Ms. Perazzo. Ms. Porterfield. Here. Mr. Ferrari. Here. Mr. Kosher. Here. Mr. Riggi. Here. Mr. Mudabaran. Present. Ms. King.
Present. All right, we have no out-of-order resolutions. We have no public hearings. So I'll move to the approval of the minutes for June 22nd, 2015. Okay, Mr. Ferrari, seconded by Mr. Mudabaran. All in favor? Aye. All right, communications and petitions.
Communications presented to the City Council for Monday, July 13, 2015. Under official from the Mayor, a list of appointments dated July 13, 2015. A letter from David Frank, Director of Operations, recommending the award of the demolition and debris removal of select vacant buildings in the City of Schenectady pursuant to the HUD 108 Loan Guarantee Demolition Program to Dakota Environmental Services. Under general, there are none. Under petitions, there are none.
Thank you. Committee reports. Ms. Porterfield.
Just want to just give an update on health and recreation. The last committee meeting last week, Rich Paterni, who is the chair of the Parks Advisory Recreation Commission, gave us a report on the findings that they have, and I know that there was a meeting held last Tuesday to give their recommendations. I haven't gotten that information yet, but it's my understanding that the goal is to move forward on those projects that are ready to move and not just wait until everything is done, because I know there was some question regarding that. So hopefully we will in the next couple of weeks be doing something. Sorry that it's not before July is over, as some people thought it would be. But it is moving forward. I have to say that the Recreation Advisory Commission has done an outstanding job. They were very committed to the task that they were asked to do, did an excellent job, and really took it very seriously. So I'd like to publicly say thank you to that group, and to let folks know that this is just the first year, as the mayor has said, and as the years go on, we plan to do work in all the parks. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. If not, then we'll move to privilege of the floor related to the legislative agenda. I have no one signed up to speak, so I'm going to declare that portion of the meeting closed. We will now move to approval of the legislative agenda. Okay, Mr. Kosher moves it, seconded by Mr. Mudabaran. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We'll now move to privilege of the floor regarding city business. First person I have signed up is Anthony Carrata.
All right, before I speak, I'd like to just say that I'd like to hear and saw that the community was out in some community events. The Our Lady of Mount Carmel Town Fest, the Summer Nights in the City, and the Comic Fest at the library. Now, what I'd like to talk about is two issues. One, last month, this council passed a resolution to recognize the term month of June as Gun Violence Awareness Month. What happened immediately after that? 2 innocent people died of gunshot wounds. A 40-year-old woman died from gunshot wounds that she got at corner Albany Swan, died at Albany Med. Thanks to Mr. Riggi informing public about that. And 2, less than a block from where I live, right there on the corner of Albany and Hewlett, right where the convenience and liquor store is, a young man died of gunshot wounds. Now, the other subject I would like to talk about is on the touchy right now. Because not just this area, it's the entire nation. The lack of respect or disrespect of our police department, i.e. the situation here in Craig Street and others. The police were just doing the job. The police, I say as a resident of this great nation, and a resident and citizen of the city of Schenectady, and the public here and the public watching this on TV and video on YouTube would agree with me. I respect all law enforcement on all 3 levels, federal, state, and local. And every time I go to the public where there's a community event and the officers are there, I tell them flat out, I respect them. And I believe that that's what they want to hear from the public, that the public respects the law enforcement. Now, recently, we had a ceremony at Proctor's to honor our police department. I respect the council as the only city officials showing up to honor our police department. Now, a friend of mine who's running for council shared an article that was in the paper about the ceremony. Reason why the officials, police officials, were waiting 2 hours for you, Mr. Mayor. The excuse you gave, well, not one excuse, was family problem. Okay, I understand that. And we got a problem in the family, we got to take care of it. I see no problem with that. What I see is, I don't see how you, a highly respected city official, who should be here in the city of Schenectady, taking care of city issues, we're in the city of Troy. You didn't bother to have a decency to say, let me take care of the family problem and make appearance. You didn't even do that. Know where you were? That following Thursday, you showed up at CBS Studios for a town hall meeting and talk about a bunch of things what the police were doing. I couldn't even make it out, but it was all lies. You need to start telling the truth. You need to start respecting our police department because they give respect from the general public and city officials. Everybody, city officials and general public, need to respect our police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Plank.
Madam President, City Council, Mayor. Last Monday, you had a presentation by the mayor's staff on the minority participation within the Erie Boulevard contract. There's some major conflicts of what the mayor's staff does not even know how to even put this thing together. One is that the contract was over $15 million project, not a $10 million project. So you need to look at the minority and women goals and the person with disability goals over a $15 million contract, not $10 million. Second piece of it is that not only are you looking at the women goals, when you said that this contract was, you need to look at the workforce within that minority participation. Are they hiring within the minorities within that workforce? That's the other piece to it. Another nomenclature was that, one of the city council members says, well, if we want to go 15%, mayor staff says, we have to file for a petition before the feds to do it. No, you don't. You just have to meet the minimum 10%. If you go over to 15, good. The feds are happy. You don't need to refile that you need to go for it. Another city council member turned around and said, well, we need to find out who these people are. Well, that's what former Councilman Joe Allen and myself for the last 7 years have been calling for, an economic disparity study. You are mandated to have one. That's what determines what your goals are. We have, they're saying anywhere between person with disabilities and minority combined together is about 38% of the population. You should have somewhere in that neighborhood of a 38% participation, not 10%. So you're under that goal. So, I mean, these are just some of the things that are happening. He says, I'm using a state piece. Well, the state budget doesn't even work. The Executive Law 15A doesn't even include person with disabilities, and it's got different priority goals than the feds do. So, you're using one document to try to justify another document, and it doesn't work. So, I mean, these are just some of the things that are happening. Again, we have the roundabout, $3.4 million that's going in across for the casino. Not one minority and none for person with disabilities. So, I mean, you know, it's a pattern. We just keep coming right back to the same situation, and we need to address it. In the last minutes here, I needed to also put out the Rivers Casino is holding their job fair at Schenectady Community College on Saturday from 8, 10, 12, and 2. There's no jobs or resumes. They're just pointing out what jobs are going to be available. They had the vendors and contractors. It'll be at 8 a.m. and then for minority, women's, and DBEs at 3 p.m. Now, the governor has said there's supposed to be a 30% participation in minorities and women's and DBEs on the casino project. So please get out and go what's going on. This came from the CTA's website of the things. Thank you.
Thank you. John Palamani.
I'm John Palameni. I live on McCollum Street in the city. Madam President, Council, Mayor. The major nonprofit housing organizations in the city have been looking at ways to collaborate on projects, become more efficient, more effective in what they are able to provide the city. In that spirit, the organizations, the Community Land Trust, Community Builders, Habitat for Humanity of Schenectady County, and Better Neighborhoods Incorporated are holding a neighborhood cleanup on Schenectady Street. Now, Schenectady Street was chosen because each of these organizations has done a rehab on that street. So we are collaborating with the mayor's office in the city to do a neighborhood revitalization. It's a Schenectady Street cleanup. Every homeowner on Schenectady Street will be receiving a letter and asked to participate if they would like to. It's free of charge. The only condition is that the people that are owning the house participate in the cleanup as well. If they want to participate, they can call the mayor's office at 382-5000. If they do not want to call the mayor's office, they can call each of the housing organizations. So that's Community Land Trust. The phone number is 372-7616. Habitat for Humanity, it's 395-3412. Better Neighborhoods, 372-6469. And Community Builders, 795-3408. And the majority of this cleanup project will be yard work. If there's some light things that people need done, we would gladly help out. And we hope as many people that would like to participate will. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Bonhomme.
Tony Bonhomme, Bellevue. I want to talk about fireworks. I don't know what the governor was thinking when he said that these things that they could set off on the ground and go up, people don't understand what they are. Schenectady County passed it, but fireworks were going off all week, the 4th of July week. They were going off all week. Call up the police headquarters number, and I get Central Dispatch, and he says, around Gilliland Avenue. I says, well, what I could see at my house, yeah. He says, well, we're trying to get there. Nothing was done. The next night I called again, and my answer was, it's a holiday weekend. I could care less a holiday weekend. I had to work holidays most of my life in the newspaper business, so I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, they have a contract that they have to, the police have a contract they have to go by. They're supposed to protect the city, so don't let them on vacation at that time. And then 3 o'clock in the morning, forgot what morning it was, fireworks were off, woke my wife up. I mean, it's ridiculous. And what it sounds like when they're going off, it's not a small fire. It sounds like a quarter pound of TNT. I've heard a lot of them in my life. When it goes off the ground, and then when it goes up in the air before it explodes, it's the same thing. Something has to be done with these. I mean, 3 o'clock in the morning, that's unheard of. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Sauer.
Good evening. I'm Greg Sauer. I live at 19 Washington Avenue. I thank you for the privilege of addressing the council and the mayor tonight. The New York State Rising report identified as a critical issue the fact that there are 50 houses, most of them in the Stockade Historic District, that are within the 100-year floodplain. That same New York Rising final report recommended that a project be established to complete long-term recovery planning, watershed management planning, mitigation planning, and other efforts to build flood resilience in this city. It is my understanding that the city has been either has received or has been notified that they will receive New York Rising funds. But rather than investing some of those funds in having such a study done so we know how to respond and protect those buildings, the city, I am told, is planning to do work on Liberty Park. In my opinion, this is outrageous and ill-advised. I plead with you to address the flooding of New York State's first historic district and develop guidelines for a course of action. Already, the lack of direction from the city official is placing our Historic District Commission in an untenable situation as residents begin to take individual actions which threaten the fabric of this historic district. I beg you to take action so we do not destroy this historic district. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Richard Unger.
Madam President, Mayor, Council members, Richard Unger, 216.5 Union Street, Schenectady. Two things I'm really here for. One, reiterate what Mr. Sauer said. It is extremely important that we get underway with a plan for how to mitigate flooding in those areas of the city that are subject to the 100-year floodplain. But the other is, as you're probably aware, there's a related hearing going on at the same time downstairs. The Historic District Commission is meeting. If you were to have a daughter and a son and they were getting married on the same day in two different cities, who would you pick to go to? Which wedding would you go to? I think it's unacceptable to have public hearings, places where the public is asked to participate, being held at the same time. And it's not a hard fix. And, put one on Tuesday and the other on Monday. The Planning Commission can meet on Wednesday, as they do, so they can be at different times. I think if you're looking for a transparent, open, public-driven process where people are expected to participate, you need to have these at different times. With that, I'm going to excuse myself because I've got to go to a different hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carol Delamarter.
My name is Carol Delamarter, and I live at 20 Washington Ave, and I'm here as president of the Stockade Association. In April 2015, the membership of the association voted, and the board of the association acted to request that the city leaders fund a flood mitigation study. Most of this was in relationship to funds that we thought at the time were available from New York Rising. But regardless of where the funds may come from, I think the other two speakers have said that the city must secure funding for a study in order to be able to respond to the challenges of individual property owners and the historic district itself. On June 8th, many of us attended the Historic District Commission's hearing on an application from one resident, and we heard a lot of information, and it provided more questions than answers, and I think that's one of the reasons for the study. Is it possible to manage the hydrology of the Mohawk River so that the risk of future floods is reduced? Is flooding inevitable? And if it is, how do we adapt our homes so that the integrity of the oldest historic district in New York State is not compromised? Does the federal flood insurance program allow no other option other than raising homes in a city neighborhood in order to avoid increasing flood insurance costs? And then again, what's the role of the city commissions, especially the Historic District Commission, which is in the position now, none of us envy, of having to balance sort of the desire of property owners individually to respond to this, but also as folks appointed by the city to be able to make the decisions in the context of historic commission precedent, history, the like. It has currently been left to individuals, whether they are members, concerned citizens of the Stockade District, to sort of sort some of this out, put together a lot of the information, and as a result, I think we've seen incomplete information, misinformation, disagreement about solutions. So what we feel is, we're asking again, it's not too late for the city to fund a comprehensive planning study that was outlined in the New York Rising strategies, complete long-term community recovery planning, watershed management planning, hazard mitigation planning, and other efforts to build flood resilience in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Wicks.
During the last year, we've had the large demonstrations against the police in Ferguson, Baltimore, Cleveland. It's not just about police shooting, killing unarmed citizens. It's really about everyone demonstrating has been abused or is familiar with the abuse by the police. A case we have right here in Schenectady is Chuck Parker, who was basically assaulted by the police, pepper sprayed, mazered, then got accused of assaulting the police, served time. The question, what do you do now? Number one is, I'd rather not be here tonight. I appreciate everyone here being right here, but we ought to join together in the rage against this and corrective action. Number one, any charges against Mr. Parker ought to be dropped. He's a good, solid citizen. He works at the Gazette. He helps his mother take care of the grandchildren. He volunteers with lunches. Definitely not someone to be mistreated. He ought to be apologized to. He ought to be compensated for lost time when he was incarcerated. The police that did the assault, lasering, pepper spray ought to be apologizing. I think the mayor ought to consider firing the police chief who oversaw this, and he'll continue. I hope some action's taken, and he'll continue to come back until we do get some action on this.
Thank you. Marva Isaacs.
Madam President, Mr. Mayor, City Council. On Saturday, there was a basketball game in the park with the police and the young men around Schenectady. It was a wonderful game. It was beautiful. But the most important thing was, after the game, the police, Chief Kilcalling and the rest of the police officer was there. Everybody get together and they talk about what's going on in the community. And it amazes me to see how these young people interact with the police. It was very, very good. I liked it, and it made my heart feel very good. I have to lift my hat up to Rosa Rivera, who organized this basketball. This is the second year. And I thank Chief Kilcalling and all the police officers for being there and the rest. It was very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no one else signed up to speak on city business, so I'm going to declare this portion of the meeting closed. We'll move to miscellaneous business of the council. Mr. Riggi.
Thank you, Madam President. Some of the issues that have come up tonight, I'll start with the fireworks. At least in my time, not just on the council, of being a resident of the city, I can't remember it being as bad as it's been this past 4th of July season, we'll call it, because it started at least 10 days prior, probably closer to 2 weeks. And it did go, what Mr. Bonhomme brought up, it went past 3 o'clock in the morning, at least in Bellevue, and I know it has in other parts of the city also, because I received many phone calls, as I'm sure all of you have. I received 17 emails from the Stockade neighborhood. It's not good, and it puts the police, I'm afraid, probably with all the good intentions, I think the county opened up a can of worms by allowing any type of fireworks, because the ambiguity of what's legal and what's not legal, the police were in a tough spot to try to enforce anything, because before it was a bit easier. Even if they're busy with other things, at least they know if there's any fireworks, it's illegal. But right now, there's a question. What's legal? What's not legal? But it's just not right. I mean, you get calls from people who have to wake up to go to work in the morning at 5 or 6 o'clock, and they're being kept awake by, it isn't just minor noise, it's loud explosions going on very early in the morning. I know the Gazette editorial, they brought up a point about mutual respect, but sometimes that just doesn't work. I'm afraid sometimes respect has to be had by strong enforcement and, you know, people being ticketed and penalized. The respect part seems to be gone, because why would anybody in their head think that blowing off high-powered fireworks at 3 a.m. in the morning is okay? And not only that, the mess left in the streets afterwards, just awful. It was just awful. I got a phone call the 4th of July night. It actually was the 5th morning, about 12 after 12 a.m. And naturally, I took the call, and I understood. I wasn't upset. But that's what kept me up, and I got to watch a lot of episodes of Storage Wars, as a matter of fact, just listening to see how long this fireworks was going to go on. And in Bellevue, it went on past 3 a.m. We were able to identify that house, and it was on Harrison Avenue. But, and the police did, I called in the next day, and they did make a visit there and explain to the people that had the house that that wasn't a good thing to do, to be a good neighbor. But I think it's just common sense. But I would like to see, I would really like to see the county take another look at what they agreed to by opting into this program that's allowed by the state, because it's, our police department has enough on their hands without having to decipher what's okay, what's not okay, what's bothersome, what's not. I mean, the noise ordinance is always there. But of course, I talked to a few officers, and they said, well, people said, well, this is legal. And maybe they weren't showing the heavy-duty stuff that they had at the time. So it's something I would like to see be addressed, because it's just, it was unbelievable what went on this past 4th of July season. The spirit of 4th of July is to celebrate, there's no question about it. But if people would use common sense, and 10, 11 o'clock at night, knock it off. But the stuff before and afterwards, that's really not acceptable. That's not the 4th of July when it's June 28th. So use that excuse, that's what we're celebrating, doesn't really wash. But I think something we have to look at, maybe, I don't know what we can do as a council, except maybe ask the request of the county to rethink and rescind their legislation, because it has caused problems. That's the only thing that I see has changed, is they opted into this program, and of course, likely so, people don't know. They think maybe we had something to do with it, which if we did, we'd take responsibility for it, but we didn't. So I think it's something that people have to be made aware of, and something we should try to examine at some point. The concerns brought by the Stockade people for a study, they're certainly valid, that's for sure, and maybe we have to look into that and see what we can do to alleviate those fears, because it is a real problem down there. And a study's not a bad idea, that's for sure. So I think that's something else we should look at. The Mount Carmel Festa was terrific this year. I know Summer Nights was going. I didn't get down there for Summer Nights because I was at the Festa. I went all 3 days, and I was lucky enough to meet the bishop on Saturday, and he's quite a man. But it was great, and it's great to see just the coming together of a neighborhood and a church bringing all these old-time traditions to fruition. And it was really great. The food was great. The people were great. The music was great. Everything was great down there. It was really a very nice festa. And the bishop is an amazing man. He's just a regular person. No entourage, no airs, nothing like that. He was walking around thanking all the volunteers personally, one by one. He really impressed me with the short time I had to speak with him as just being a man of the people. So I think that's great. And there's a lot of good things happening in Schenectady. I know Summer Nights was a huge success, and it's really, you know, something to be proud of. So a lot of good things happening, and we'll keep celebrating if we can just keep the fireworks down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I also do want to just mention about the fireworks. I got a lot of phone calls, got emails regarding that it was just really excessive this year. And I can say that driving, because I was away from the city for a little while, so driving in, there was like a mist over the city of clouds as you drove through some of the streets. So in some streets, people were just setting them off in the street, so you had to wait until they finished before you could even drive down the street. So I think that perhaps we should definitely take a look at, you know, what's allowed and what's not allowed, and where you could do it, like not in the middle of the street, to me is unacceptable because that's where traffic is. But Mr. Riggi has talked about that extensively, so I think that we know that it really was a problem this year. I'd also like to, you know, there's been a lot of conversation about police-community relations throughout the region, throughout the country. Locally, there was a police-community relations forum held by Channel 6 this past Thursday, and it was relatively well attended, and people had a lot of different views about what they thought could happen. I'm glad that that forum took place because one of the things in solving a problem is first you have to acknowledge that there is one. So, you know, it's the beginning of a solution. One of the things that was mentioned there, specifically about Schenectady County by, I believe it's Dr. Warden is his name, who has done some work for the city police department in terms of keeping data on the arrests and those kind of things. Specifically mentioned with regard to minorities in the police that in Schenectady County, minorities are 2 times likely to be stopped and 3 times more likely to be incarcerated. So found that statistic pretty troubling, and especially since this wasn't anecdotal, this was specifically a person whose job it is to take care of recording the data and making sure that it's recorded properly. So needless to say, there's certainly some work that needs to be done, but as I stated, the beginning of solving a problem is recognizing that there is one. So, you know, I'm sure that more things will happen locally, and we'll talk more about that and talk about resolving that, because it takes both people. It takes the community, it takes the police. This is not a one-sided issue. But in that, there was, as was earlier mentioned, there was a basketball game this weekend. It was the 2nd year of the Community and Police Basketball League, and it was held at Jerry Burrell Park. And if those of you that didn't see, there was a really nice article in the paper on Friday, and it mentions one of our police officers, Patrolman Plowden, who moved away and actually came back here and used to play basketball in Jerry Burrell Park when he was a youth. So that was a really nice connection. So it was an opportunity for the police and the community to come together in a non-threatening environment. So it was really well attended, really well attended, and you know, I think that it's a step in the right direction, and it's going to happen 4 times this summer. Let me just mention that. This was the first one. The next one is Saturday, July 18th, then Sunday, July 26th, Saturday, August 1st. And the championship game is going to be held on Sunday, August 2nd. And it begins at 12 p.m. and ends at 5 p.m. So this is an opportunity for young people, again, to come out. And I just want to say, you know, thank you to the organizers, Rose Rivera, and she had a lot of support from Rachel Frazier and also Deontay Bethune. They came together and did this. It's the second year. They put a lot of work into it, and it turned out very well. I also want to specifically mention the officers who are playing this year and supporting this. Chief Brian Kilcullen, Sergeant Ray Mascherone, Patrol Officer Andrew McDonald, James Plowden, Sam Gonzalez, Joseph Gata, Kamiku Mosier, and Tom Kelly, all those patrol officers, and to say thank you for supporting this wonderful effort. I want to announce that there's going to be a read out loud and signing of a book called The Wonderful You. And the writer of this book is a graduate of Linton High School, Naima Jones. At that time, she was Valinda Edwards. It's going to be held at Proctor's on Saturday, August 8th from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. And it's free of charge. And anyone that is interested can call area code 518-878-3888 to say that they'll be attending. And if they want to find out more about the author, they can go to www.askandAIMAH.com. I think it's wonderful when people who grew up here and were educated here go off to do other things and then come back and share their skills and abilities and what they've accomplished. So August 8th, for those of you who would like to attend. It's been mentioned that there's going to be a job fair for the Rivers Casino and Resort. And people are probably saying, well, she voted against that. Well, the reality is it's coming. There's going to be jobs, so we need to acknowledge that. And if people want the opportunity to work there, to know that this is happening. So from the 18th, from 8 to 3 at Schenectady County Community College. And as it was mentioned, it is on the website. And also, there's also going to be a bus that runs from SCC, to SCC throughout the region to get people there. Just to clarify, the job fair is one day, and that is on the 18th, and the vendor fair is on the 17th, sessions at 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. They're specifically aimed at minority and women at the 3 p.m. So people should come out that are interested in working or actually being vendors with the casino. I also had the opportunity to attend summer night, and my sister was visiting, who hasn't lived here since high school, and so she was just thoroughly impressed and just kept talking about it and talking about it. She said, well, look at Schenectady. Schenectady's really, come back, and she just couldn't stop talking about it. Was really pleased that she came because she got to see a lot of people that she hasn't seen in a very long time. So it was good to hear that. I mean, when you live here and you see it happen, you're like, okay, but to hear someone else who doesn't live here and hasn't been here in a while and has seen a bit of the decline, to hear her praise how she thought everything was looking and doing was really good to hear. So I wanted to be able to share that with you as well. She's looking forward to coming again next year and wanted to know why I hadn't invited her before. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, the Mount Carmel Fest, one of those great traditions in Mount Pleasant neighborhood. Good people, good time. As Councilmember Porterfield talked about, Friday was the 10th annual summer night. It grows each year, getting bigger and better. Everybody came out, good food, good entertainment, get to see some old friends, make some new friends, and we hope your sister is back next year for the 11th, where it'll be even bigger and better. The City of Schenectady was lucky to be a recipient under the state's microgrid program for $100,000 going to Marquee Power. This will help fund a study for, again, a microgrid in Schenectady, which will provide environmentally safe and sustainable power. It's exciting to participate in that with a lot of the other things that are going on. It was pointed out the Community Police Basketball League. I've told the police chief secretary he's not to take any phone calls from the NBA. But we do thank the members of the police department for coming out, participating in that, and just the broad-based community support that it's receiving. And it's, all too often we see all the negative things that go on, it's one of the really good things when people come out, have a good time, and again, build some friendships that hopefully will last a long time. I had the opportunity today to swear in 11 new police officers. They'll start at the academy tomorrow, 26-week training program. They'll come back in about 6 months, and they'll do roughly 13 weeks field training and then be able to go on the street as fully functional police officers. Just on the New York Rising money, New York, Schenectady was given $3 million in that. There was a package that was done of which the city did not take a formal position on the recommendations. It was the Office of Stormwater Recovery who came back and talked about the pump station on North Ferry Street, and really the only thing that has been approved so far is the funding for the design of that facility. And again, that's undergone a couple of changes, and so I still look at that as a dynamic process. And I know there's a little bit of disinformation that's out there, and we want to again work with the neighborhoods. We're not looking for things that divide people, but looking to bring people together and create long-term sustainable projects for the city of Schenectady. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And I too would like to commend everybody involved with Summer Night. That was really impressive, the number of people, and that it went so well. Also just wanted to add a comment. Several people have talked about the job fair coming up related to the casino. And as someone did mention, it's not for people to turn in resumes or anything, but it's for you to get information about the kinds of jobs that are available and what kind of education and training is required for those jobs, in the hopes that in the next year, before the casino is ready to be up and running, people would be able to get into programs and get the appropriate background, you know, that they need. So we just encourage anyone who has an interest to definitely check that out. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Kosher, seconded by Ms. Porterfield. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.